Hi, I'm Dr. Pam Peeke. I'm the Chief Medical Officer for Embr Labs. And well, what do? We have the best biohack on the planet to be able to handle problems that have to do with, oh, I don't know, the fiery flames of hot flashes. If you're in the perimenopause, meaning you could be as early as in your 30s, like 38, 39, and then certainly in your 40s and well into your 50s and even 60s. So we're here to help.
So, Dr. Peak, I think I am wearing an
I'm just
Ember Wave
saying.
2. We're matching.
Okay, here it is. And it's called the Wave 2 because it's the second generation and it is superb. It really goes with my jewelry. And actually, one day soon, in the future, we're going to be taking it also off the wrist and onto other parts of the body so that we have many options, including the wrist, to be able to use it. So, have you tried it yet?
Oh my gosh. So, I've been trying it for the past like 10 days or so, maybe a little bit more. And I did not realize how much I was going to love it. Like, I think I have fallen in love. So, when you're saying, and I've been talking to everybody I know about it because I feel like it has like quenched a thirst I didn't even know that I had. That's how I feel about it. And so I use it all the time. I basically have been wearing it to bed. If I get either hot or cold, it can warm me up. When I go for a walk and I'm walking my dog, I'm like, oh, it's a little chilly. I just do the 10-minute, whatever. I've been wearing it after the gym for my walk home from the gym to cool down.
Good for you going to the
I
damn gym.
I know. I'm like, I'm using it all and I can't shut up about it. That's the other thing. Once I've got it, I was like, oh, you guys need to know about this. It's not a heart monitor. It's not a watch. You want to know what it is? Like it helps change my and regulate my body
Well,
temperature.
it's your own little, thermal ecosystem. Come on, let's talk sustainability.
Yeah.
So instead of like fighting over the thermostat, and saying, "Damn it, it's too cold, it's too hot here," you just say, "Excuse me, I'm just going to deal with it myself." And it's like the cone of your own little ecosystem here. It's so sustainable because this way you don't waste a whole lot of energy. To your point, Joy, what's really cool about this is that women and men feel hot or cold all the time. Men oftentimes will feel very, very hot just because they tend to have a greater metabolism and all the rest of it. And women oftentimes will feel much cooler, especially in office buildings and homes where the guys are controlling the thermostat.
Right.
And so, in addition to what it can do for things like, the hot flash experience that women have starting for sure at age 40 and extending all the way to 60. It's also a great way to be able to just keep yourself more thermally comfortable, to be able to feel warmer or cooler depending upon what's going on. And so many women just walk around like I was just in a meeting in the Boston Convention Center, where I spoke. And what was really interesting was, I don't know, somebody cranked up the AC in that place. Every single woman walked around looking blue.
Uh-huh.
And it's so interesting. Once they actually put this on and then hit warming, they felt fantastic.
Yeah.
And this opposite is true for the guys who are feeling, super warm and they want to get a little bit cooler. So it is your own thermal ecosystem. It's the coolest thing ever. But I bet you don't know how it works. I
No.
bet.
No. I mean, just to kind of follow up, I've been debating like, is it time to bring out my space heater, and just like put it because I don't have central air in my place, but like when it gets super cold, I'll do space heater, and that's prevented me. I haven't had to do that, and I tend to run cold, and I'm 42. I don't know what stage of menopause I'm in, if I'm in it at all, but I'm just
Early.
like,
No, it's not menopause. Menopause is when, your menstrual cycle completely ceases.
yeah, I'm not there.
Whereas you're in perimenopause, which means, you're beginning that little journey, and
Yeah.
and
And I just like I can't tell you how many times a day I'm reaching for this, and I've got the app on my phone, and I'm like, okay, do I want? And I like the fact that it's waves. It's not like a constant, push of temperature. That it's like pulses of it. So please tell me how it works.
So here's the way it works. How many of you have ever had somebody in your life, it was my grandmother in my case, say, "Oh, is it really hot out here? Put some ice right here on your wrist." Now, my grandmother was not a thermal, scientist, and so she was just a smarty pants, and somebody realized somewhere along the line that it just sort of magically made you feel cooler. Now, how could that be possible? Well, as it turns out, there are certain parts of your body that have a real dense population of what we call thermal receptors. I'll make it simple. Little cells, big dense populations of little cells, communities of cells that basically help you heat or cool your body. And so that's why it worked for a very short period of time. If you put ice on there, which is static, it's like a whole lot of, cold at one time. You know what happens? Doesn't last long. It goes numb, and then you're like, oh man, but it was good for a moment.
Hmm.
Well, the smarty pants founders of this science are scientists, thermoelectric scientists from MIT, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And what they found in their laboratory was a way to be able to hack into our nervous system communicating with the brain and its regulation centers up there to be able to give us a sense of cooling or of warming. How cool is that? But the way they did it, to your point, Joy, and you're really smart on this one, is they did it by creating waves. So here's the little, skin receptor. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, stimulate it and come off it. Stimulate it and come off it. Now, by doing so, that receptor on that cell will continuously fire. It'll always stay stimulated because you're giving it a chance to, rest. Now I'm going to be stimulated again, rest. And then by doing so, you just keep it going. But if I just did one flat, temperature, like slapping that ice on my wrist, doesn't work. You need to have not static, you need to have dynamic. And so what we've done is patented really cool thermal waveforms that allow you to be able to do that. I mean, we've got a whole host of them. If you look on the app, which comes with the device, what you're able to see is there's a bunch of them, everything from all night mode. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
8 hours of sleeping with something that makes you feel really comfortable to sleep with. So it would be like, for instance, maybe cooling mode feels really good at nighttime. Well, what will happen is those thermal waveforms were created to just slowly, just move through and just keep you in that nice, cooling place. That's really neat. Whereas other ones are like, boom, we get you right away. Others are 30 minutes long, 15 minutes long. It just depends. So you play around with it, customize something for yourself, and boom, you're home.
So I'm looking at the app right now, and there's the four different, there's comfort, hot flashes, stress, and sleep. And I have to be honest, I haven't tried the sleep one. I didn't know that it was an all night thing. Honestly, I was trying to figure out like what exactly is the difference between each one of these if if I'm just feeling like, oh, I want to warm up or cool down.
Most of them are, when you're looking at thermal comfort, obviously that's going to be either cooling or warming. So you just hit that and you basically choose what works best for you, because what's comfortable for you may be different for me.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes with sleep. There's a choice to be able to, what they call go to sleep mode. So sometimes people just need a little nudge and a little bit of comfort to get to sleep. And man, they're just out like a, light until whatever, 7 in the morning. Other people would like something that's all night long, and then that works well. Other people would like something that's much shorter, just 15 minutes, just like, you hit it and it's going to hit you going for 15 minutes and then you're perfectly fine. The key thing more than anything else with the wave is that it allows you to individualize, so that what works for you, Joy, may be irrelevant for me. I
Right.
need something different, and you're in a different place. And so you do your little thing too. And that's the thing we love. When you're creating your own little ecosystem of thermal comfort, right? You get a chance to customize what's best for you. And it may change next month. Maybe something happened. Maybe now your perimenopause is really kicking in. Okay, then you have a chance to redo that again. And so you yourself are dynamic.
Yeah.
It's really kind of cool
Well,
that way.
I have to tell you, it makes me like, honestly, genuinely makes me like less scared of menopause. I was like, oh my gosh, I already have a tool for whenever this thing comes up. Like, it makes it less intimidating.
It's so interesting in our studies, and as a physician and a clinical scientist, it's my job to oversee the studies where we're actually testing this marvelous wave two, intervention, when we're looking at natural menopause, when we're looking at a whole bunch of different, conditions. And one of the things we found was that so many women are fearful. They're like, oh my God, I've heard, like nightmares and people in drenching sweats, and you're about ready to, chair a board meeting. And then, you're sitting there and you're just unpredictably, it just sort of hits you in the head with a hot flash. And it's just like you live in fear 24/7,
Yeah.
because you never know what's going to happen next. And so I think that one of the best things we found, and this is really interesting in all of our studies, we found that the issue of control is absolutely paramount. When you can feel like you can reclaim control over your life, that is absolutely the goal. So now I can just sort of get up and go, okay, no matter what happens, however unpredictable these hot flashes are, and strange feelings and drenching sweats and the rest of it, I got this. Because all I got to do is hit the button, right?
Yeah.
And I'm home.
So
And
can
there
I
you have it.
I have to share with you another like revelation that I have gotten from it. And it sort of helped me realize that I experience anxiety. Like, I have a meditation practice. I tried to stay calm and like navigate stress, just like whatever. But in the last couple weeks, I was full disclosure, I'm in the process of purchasing a home. And I'm doing that on my own. And to be honest, that's a really stressful thing. And as like moving money around or whatever, it's got me like stressed out, sleeping weird at night, or like having weird anxiety of things just like coming up. And I noticed that when I would click on, I was wearing the Wave 2 and I could click on the cooling, it automatically like brought me back into my body and made me like pay attention to something else that was not whatever was rolling around in my head. And I felt like that is an insane biohack. Like, to your point, I was like, I can't believe that it got me from stressing out and feeling like super worried to be like, nope, just be here, just focus on whatever is right here, right now, and breathe, etc.
Well, I love that. And I love the fact that you brought up the issue of anxiety. Women tend to have generalized anxiety disorder, period. Women are more anxious than men by a factor of almost 20 to 1. It's just sort of innately built into our DNA. And of course, there's a bell-shaped curve. Some women are fine, don't really have that much, but most women have a little bit of that anxiety edge. Well, as it turns out, when we look at the customer data, when people, give us feedback in real world data, I cannot tell you how many people, male and female, have told us that this has helped them immeasurably with anxiety. When you think about it, anxiety also goes hand in hand, with, a feeling of what? It feels like your fight and flight response just ignited. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
zzz, and so when suddenly another document shows up in your DocuSign and it says, "Hey, Joy, sign here," and you got to put down a down payment of how many dollars?
Right?
And then you're signing your life away and all the rest of it. Well, of course you're going to go from 0 to a million on the anxiety, scale, and you're just going to literally feel your heart racing. If you measured your blood pressure, it's probably gone up a little bit, and you feel like you're almost on fire, and you may even begin to break out in sweat. And so all of these things are really your what we call the sympathetic nervous system. That's the fight and flight response. It's just on fire. And the same thing happens, by the way, when you have a hot flash. Exactly the same thing. Boom, you're on fire. So what you want to do is tamp down that fire, and you do this through this biohack. So what happens is that waveform, that you hit when you did cool, what it does is it communicates with the nervous system through these special cells here, then through the nervous system all the way up to the brain. That's why it's such a beautiful brain hack. In the temperature regulation part of the brain, it changes. And what will happen is you will then perceive that you're cooler, and you'll feel relief and greater control. Control and relief, two huge words here. Now,
Mm-hmm.
part of that relief is coming from the fact that when you felt that ignition of the fight and flight response, well, that's one part of the nervous system, and it's there for survival, obviously. So there's another part of the nervous system, the parasympathetic, which is more of your rest and digest part. We tap into that. And so we can actually see that we're tamping down on that fight and flight and amping up on the rest and digest, so that now you feel, and you did this all inside your body. That's why I love to call this, you know what this is? An inside job. That's what it is. It's a biohack. And for a scientist like myself, I just can't tell you how exciting it is to see this. This is just the coolest thing ever.
I totally agree with you. And so, all right, so when I play in the app and I'm looking at, like, there's a couple questions that I have for you, because one, I want to be able to see, and I know that it's probably coming soon. I want to see like how I have used it, like what are the patterns of me using it over the past couple weeks. And then the other question I have is like, will it ever get to the point that it is predicting before I even have to press the button? Like if it
Ooh,
could,
you're asking acid questions that we love. We love, we love, we love these questions. All right. So here's the way the whole thing works. Um, yes, we have all kinds of new tracking and data collection software that's going to be rolling out. We have some already, and then now we're going to be having more and more and more. As most people know in tech, first you launch, and then you just nice and methodically continuously roll out more and more beautiful assets as we launch and get everyone familiar with the new device and a lot of the basic controls in it. So stay tuned, we love to say. And then at the same time, one of the things that we're doing is our technology engineers who are in charge of research and development within making this even more interesting. Well, it turns out we have a big study that's ongoing that will be helping us put together the roadmap Two, predictive sensing. This is very tough engineering. For anyone who thinks, oh, well, we'll just do that, and you hear a lot of this fluff on the internet and whatever, forget it. No, you need our kind of engineers, MIT trained, to be able to sit down and figure out how to do this. So we're already well into almost a year's worth of work on this. And I absolutely guarantee you, we will be having some very awesome predictive sensors to be able to help you, kind of, as we say in the business, nip it in the bud. So again, stay tuned, because this technology is just absolutely exploding right now.
Yeah.
This is all brand new thermoelectrics. And I just can't tell you how wonderful it is to be in the midst of all of this, mountain of new discovery in this. And most importantly, to touch lives like we're helping you.
I didn't know that it existed, and I'm sure that by the time I get to like the hot flash point in my menopause journey, that the technology will be upgraded by then. And that's the part that I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna, I don't know, something I've been probably pretty scared of most of my life is not as scary.
Well, what's interesting is that, every woman's journey with perimenopause and menopause is different. Do you remember when you first started having menstrual cycles? All
Yes.
right. Well, you ask your best friend, hey, did you have this kind of an experience or that kind of experience? And maybe she's just like totally different, never had cramps, had a 2-day cycle. She's like, not a problem. And meanwhile, you're on the floor with, cramps and dying and 7 days worth of a menstrual cycle. And you're like, what? You know, well, the same thing happens with perimenopause. There's a huge bell-shaped curve, lots of variability. And here's the other thing you really keep in mind. What's really okay today may not be okay next week, because guess what? It's a dynamic thing. What is perimenopause? What it is the very gradual, slow wean of your body off one of the most powerful hormones on the planet, estrogen. Now, obviously, progesterone is changing too, testosterone, not so much. But estrogen is literally affecting almost every tissue in your body, every tissue. So it is extremely powerful. That's why it takes no less than 10 years, if not more, to wean yourself slowly but surely, so that your body can slowly but surely adapt and adjust to lower levels. During that time, every woman's journey is different. Some women are like, no problem, whatever, you know, and other women are like, I can't sleep. I got drenching sweat. What's going on? Here's something, a little factoid from science. The women who have like big time problems with this just tend to be super sensitive to estrogen.
Okay.
So that makes sense, because as even a small increment of estrogen is starting to change, then she's really feeling it. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Whereas another woman who's less sensitive, and this is just built into your own DNA, right? Another woman who's less sensitive is like, nah, not a problem,
No
kind of
biggie.
whizzing through the night. If I have a couple little sweats, who died? No big deal. So please realize this is a very individualized and unique experience to every single woman.
Well, I am a fan. I'll tell you that much. I'm a fan. I didn't even know it was something that I wanted. And now I'm like, I'm not.
You don't have a choice in this matter, honey.
Yeah.
This is part of your journey. You're going to have to keep rocking and rolling with this one. And who knows? I will also tell you now, here's a little, a tip and a tool that might be able to help everyone out there. If you really want to decrease a lot of the symptoms that are associated with menopause, one of the things that really helps is to learn how to manage stress better. Because stress is part of that firing up of the fight and flight response. Well, obviously, you're feeling stressed out when that happens, right?
Right.
So If you're doing yoga, if you're meditating, if you know how to take those deep cleansing breaths at the right time, if you know how to hit the pause button in the middle of your forehead and say, whoa, no, 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 take a deep breath before I ignite. If you do all of that, I will guarantee you'll have a better show of it. Guaranteed. Okay. And that's true for natural menopause. It's actually true for all, forms of menopause, but natural menopause, especially, really important to learn how to control stress. So if you're listening to this marvelous podcast right now and you're like 30 years old and you're going, oh, like I'm going to wait and what? No, lay down the foundation now. Get meditation, yoga, some kind of mind body experience into your life right now to lay down a powerful foundation for walking into perimenopause and menopause with. Then you're like, leagues ahead of everyone else. That's what I would do. Now, I also want to, pivot over for a second. For women who are thrown into menopause overnight, it can be the hot flashes can be quite devastating. And these are women who have breast cancer, gynecologic cancer, where their ovaries have been removed, or anyone who's had ovaries removed, say, for instance, for whatever problem. But anyone who was thrown into menopause, um, there was no time to adapt. Now, it depends upon what age that happened. Obviously, if it happened at the age of 50, at least you had 10 years. But if it happened at the age of 40, or sometime in your 40s or even in your 30s, then this can be quite devastating. This is why I'm currently overseeing a trial with breast cancer patients, and soon to also include gynecologic patients, meaning, ovaries, etc. And what we're finding is that not only are those hot flashes fairly severe, especially at nighttime with drenching sweats, they happen very frequently. They're extremely, interfering in quality of life and leave these women feeling as though they have literally no control over their own life. So that's not a great thing.
Mm-mm.
So we have found our device to be immensely helpful, and it literally gives these women a chance to reclaim their life, to be able to increase the amount of control they have in their life, to a point where things are much more manageable because they have enough on their plate, especially if they have cancer. They're already managing all of that and the mental and physical stress of it all. What they don't need is all of this issue with, hot flashes associated with this. So we help them with that. And I got to say, as a physician, it gives me unbelievable satisfaction to be able to help these women. And listen, one other thing too, I'm studying men with prostate cancer, and we're just winding up the study now. And we're finding that, most people don't realize prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men outside of benign skin cancer. 1 out of 8 men will have prostate cancer. And this tends to be more of a chronic disease. I mean, many men, the average number of years they stay alive once they've been diagnosed, assuming it wasn't widely metastatic at that moment, is usually 15 years or more. So it's a chronic issue. And they have to be maintained on medications that throw them immediately into a menopausal state where they have very devastating hot flashes. As one can imagine, men shouldn't
Oh,
be having
wow.
hot flashes,
Right.
right?
Right.
And we found the same thing. Men love the control over their life now. Now they have better control. Now they have an opportunity to feel as though, with a flip of a little button or however they've customized on their app, boom, they're home.
I
So
have
that's pretty
passed it
cool.
off. I have passed it off to a couple of my male friends. I'm like, you got to try this. And I want to like know what their opinion is. And they've all been really, it's all been really positive. I can tell you.
A
And
lot of guys are using it after they work out, when they get super hot. Many times you're caught in this position where you're very hot, like you're outdoors in a stadium and the sun's beating down on you and all the rest of it. And they've used it for that purpose. And so, guys love it too.
well, and it's also good looking. Like you can wear it with a nice outfit. You can dress it up or dress it down, and it's like a nice piece of
Well,
jewelry.
women love both, the gold one, but also the black one.
Yeah,
Because, it's just like sporty and you could wear it with almost anything. And it's just really easy to wear. It's light, and it doesn't bang on anything and it's really comfortable. And you barely even know it's there. Many of my study participants forget it's there.
that's wild. So, Dr. Peake, can we transition? I would like to know a little bit more about you as an individual, if that's okay with you.
Well, you know something?
What?
Nothing would give me greater pleasure. Have I told you enough about me? Yeah. Okay.
I would like to know if you knew what you wanted to be or what you wanted to do when you were 10. And I guess conversely, what would 10-year-old Dr. Peake think of what you do now for a living?
So 10-year-old Dr. Peeke was just a little rebel. I never had a Barbie doll. I'm not kidding you. I just didn't do any of that. So what made me happiest was getting a microscope. I know it sounds nerdy. Just work with me here, because it was really cool. Then I'd go find some disgusting pond somewhere, with all kinds of weird stuff in it, and then come into my house, stink the whole place up with, like pond smell, and then put little bits underneath my little microscope and look at all the little creepy crawlies. I had no idea what I was looking at, so I had to look it up a little bit. And there it was, little bacteria and crazy things. And Lord knows what I brought into my home. I did that with a rotting orange once. I put it under my bed, when it gets all green and white and moldy and everything, and that nice smell. And I thought, wow, let's get some of that under the microscope, until my mother discovered that. And then she put an end to that little
I was
experiment.
going to say, were they supportive? Were your mom and dad supportive of that
Oh,
behavior?
absolutely. They said, "Wow, she's going to be a scientist. There's no question." And I was having more fun with that, and I just really felt as though I was in an environment that was completely supportive of all my nerdyism and my geekism at that time, and so it was very natural. Nothing was forced. I had my share of stuffed animals, my giraffe, and the rest of it. But I was always a rebel, and I was a tomboy, and went on to become a triathlete. And so it's just sort of fun that way.
Okay.
Now, the doctor part is interesting. So I went to an impossibly nerdy high school, and it was my choice. I just love this place. It's called Lowell in San Francisco. It's very famous. Tend to graduate people who go on to do wild and crazy, wonderful things in life, in fantastic colleges, and lots of advanced placement classes, and just a beautiful, wonderful environment of learning and transparency and authenticity. So I remember when the senior yearbook guy came around in the fall that year, and he said, "So, what do I put under your picture?" And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "You have to be pre something," because in our school we were pre law, pre med, pre architecture, pre engineering, whatever. And I said, "Oh, geez, I don't know." Then he looked at me like I was a total loser, and he said, "Look, all right, what do you like?" And I said, "I like science, math, and people." And he says, "Doctor." And I went, "Yeah, let's go with that." That's literally how the whole thing ended up, that I had
Wow.
pre-med under my name. Then when I went to Berkeley, I said, "Uh-oh, rot-row, is this really true?" So you know what I love to do, and I encourage everyone out there to do that, right? What you do is, as soon as you get into college and you're like, is this the right decision about my major and whatever? Go out and get practical experience.
Hmm.
So I went to the Berkeley Free Clinic, the Haight Ashbury Free Clinic, Highland Hospital, and I became what you call a gopher. I go for this, I go for that. Just put me to work. I just want to live and breathe and inhale this craziness. It's like a mash unit everywhere I went. And then you sit with it, and you say to yourself truthfully, how do you feel? How do you feel about this whole experience? And I was in love, and that was it. So then I took off, and then the rest is history.
Well, you're answering the question before I even asked, which is like, what advice would you give to a 23-year-old, somebody who is just at the,
Get
yeah,
practical experience, and don't do something for the money. Don't do something for false, craziness out there. Just ask yourself, right? How many adventures have I had where I've challenged myself enough to know what I may or may not like? And just go out there. What's the worst that can happen? It's like, oh, that was a rotten experience. That's good. That highly informs you. That's not the direction to go. Whereas get on out there and maybe you'll be super lucky to be able to find something fairly soon. I was very fortunate to have just followed my gut, and I was fearless. I said to myself, well, what's the worst that can happen if I go to the free clinic, and to Highland Hospital, which is just like a war zone kind of county hospital. It's like
yeah.
the Knife and Gun Club every Friday night. What's the worst that can happen? You drive home and go, God, I'll never do that again.
No, but
You never know.
you're lucky that you liked what you were testing out. I liked what I was doing too. I tended to have this theory around like, try everything. At least try it once, so that, to your point, that I'll know if it's something for me or not for me, and it'll inform my decision. But don't knock it till you try it was something that I used to say at the time. But it really served me well, and I never really had a linear path, but then I kind of picked up skills, and in doing that, you end up picking up, having different adventures, different learning, different lessons, picking up different skills, and regardless, you're going to be able to apply those at some point. So,
Well, one of the things that's really important here is to act fearlessly, but strategically. I mean, don't do stupid things.
right.
Um, you know, just go out there and say, I live by Helen Keller's wonderful words: life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. I'm always going with the daring adventure part. Why? Well, because of the awesome experiences I end up having.
We only get one. We only get this one audacious life, right? So, what are you going to do with yours?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Peek, this has been, I feel like we could talk for hours, and it's been great getting to know you and everything that you're doing. And I genuinely give this a 10 out of 10 review.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to take that back to the wonderful scientists who created this, because that will make them so happy to know that they've been able to help you. And then I'll take it back to my clinical team, who are just toiling away, working so hard to be able to validate and to test it under certain circumstances, and to find out what happens. Again, it's all about discovery. We're back to that adventure again.
I love it. Well, if people want to find you, follow you, work with you, or purchase this device, where would the best place be for them to go?
Embrlabs.com, EMBR Labs, LABS.com, EMBRLABS.com. Just run on over, and what you're going to find is a really beautiful website with tons of information, and just, order it. Let's just get this thing going.
Love it. Well, thanks again. It was nice getting to know you. I hope we get to
Wonderful
stay
to
in
meet
touch.
you too, Joy. Have a great day.
Thank you.